Stream it or skip it. This is the Tom Green documentary. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's go back. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gen X Unfiltered, the podcast.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Steve, Eric, doing well?
Doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Doing dandy like sour candy.
Oh, that's a good one. We have our Tim Hortons coffee.
Yeah.
I got a tea today. I mixed it up a bit.
I don't think any of us actually have coffee.
I got French vanilla. I think there's some coffee in French vanilla.
A lot of sugar.
Yeah.
A lot of sugar, yeah.
I had a little too much caffeine already this morning. The old belly's getting a
workout?
much more,
Well,
yeah.
what kind of tea did you got? Just regular? Are you a fancy tea drinker or just a
Earl
basic?
Grey.
Oh, basic bee tea.
Yeah,
Oh.
Earl Grey, bag in, milk. 2
That's-
milks.
Ooh.
Patrick Stewart's brand, Earl Grey, or his
Earl
type.
Grey. And French vanilla, if you're Canadian, you know. If you're not, well, you're missing out on delicious cup of sugar.
Highly suggested. It's a fantastic drink in the wintertime.
So sugary, but so good.
Hashtag
Yeah.
not sponsored.
I wish.
Also not sponsored, yeah.
Tim Hortons, you know you love us.
Hit us up. Yeah, we'll drink your coffees for free.
I'll wear your merch. Anywho.
Enough begging. Let's get to the
Yeah,
show.
We just gave Tim Hortons.
Unbecoming.
They don't need to sponsor us. We just gave them free advertisement for a minute for no reason.
That's true.
Exactly.
God, we need a better business plan.
Speaking of Canadian, we're going heavy on the Canadiana today.
We
Yeah.
are, which is fitting though. Maybe that's why we intuitively got.
That's
the Tim
right. For
Hortons.
anyone who maybe doesn't know, we are up here in the Great White North of Canada.
Yeah.
in the blistering cold.
It is a chilly one out there today, yes.
I mean, we're babies. We're in Southern Ontario. Boo-hoo to us. I know,
it's
you
like,
know.
what is it, like minus 10 degrees Celsius out there?
Yeah.
But it still hurts.
It's cold,
my
but it's
bones.
not
It's
as
not
cold.
yeah.
It's not as cold as it can get, yeah.
You go a little bit north and they're, whole different ball game.
Yeah.
But it's fine. We can complain about it. That's what Canadians do.
Complain about the weather. It's one of our national pastimes.
All right, guys. We are talking about the Tom Green documentary called "This Is the Tom Green Documentary." Very
Yeah,
very
very
to the point.
on brand for him,
simple
right?
to the point, yeah.
I'm gonna give.
The show is called This Is the Tom Green Show,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give, a lot of you may not know Tom Green. He's a Canadian boy through and through.
Yep.
And I'm going to give a little synopsis of the documentary. And then as we talk about it, we'll kind of give a little synopsis of Tom Green himself.
Okay.
Let's do
Maybe
it.
he'll hear this, Tom.
Hey, hopefully he's, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go skating on the canal with you. I saw actually you did a reel. You're skating on the canal earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, okay, ready? Tom Green's latest documentary, This Is the Tom Green Documentary, premiered on Prime Video on January 24th, 2025. This Amazon original film offers an in-depth look at Green's influential career in comedy, television, and internet culture. Utilizing thousands of hours of personal footage, rare episodes, and unseen raw material, the documentary traces his journey from humble beginnings in Canada to Hollywood stardom and eventually back to his roots as he relocates from Los Angeles to a rural, I can't say that word, rural farm. Green candidly shares the highs and lows of his career, providing insight into his creative process, controversial antics, and unique brand of humor that has left a lasting impact on a generation of comedians. I'm going to start off by saying I hated the Tom Green show. I thought Tom Green was so annoying when I was younger.
Yeah,
I
you
was
weren't a
just
fan.
not into it.
He was definitely a polarizing character in terms of people really liked him or they hated him. It was kind of not a lot of in between.
Because he was very like poop and fart comedy, right? Like it was just really like lowbrow, kind of stupid.
It was kind of out there too. Like,
it was weird.
like he was doing some pretty bizarre stuff.
Yeah, outlandish stuff to try and get a reaction out of people, right?
Yeah.
Basically, that was kind of the format of his comedy. He's like, I'm going to do something crazy to get a reaction.
Yeah.
And the reaction is the joke, the comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the people,
So, I mean, that was just my personal preference. I mean, I was, watching Beverly Hills 90210, not the Tom Green show.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I do have to say, I'll sum it up at the end, but after watching this documentary, I have an interesting perspective on him and all this stuff. All I knew about him was he was Canadian and he did this Tom Green show, and then he was in movies when we were older. That's all I really knew about him.
No, yeah. I wasn't the biggest Tom Green fan, but I mean, I liked his stuff. I would watch his show and, but I wasn't like a diehard, watch every episode type thing, but I definitely knew who he was. Most of his stuff I found funny. Some of the stuff it was a little with the dead animals and stuff like that. It was kind of like, that's not really my bag.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, obviously, we'll go into details. We talk about it, but I mean, he had the brief little marriage with Drew Barrymore, so that kind of put him in more of a national sort of spotlight because he was international. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And I lost my train of thought, literally mid-sentence.
But I think Tom Green was
huge.
huge, like late 90s, early
Yeah,
2000s.
he was.
He was everywhere in like the mainstream media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the one thing, because looking back, thinking about Tom Green, you kind of forget, how big he got.
was,
Like,
yeah.
it was huge, yeah.
I do have to say, so I believe he said at the beginning of the documentary, he like directed this documentary. It was his documentary.
That was actually really funny how he
Yeah.
set up the whole documentary.
Yeah.
Talking with his mom,
Yeah, his
Yeah.
mom was like, aren't there rules around documentaries? Aren't you like, isn't the person who the documentary is, like the subject of the documentary, not supposed to be the director and the writer of it as well?
He's like,
Yeah,
oh
he's
yeah.
like,
yeah, there's rules to this generally. You're right.
Yeah, she's like, so they don't whitewash their stories. Like, I'm going to do that. Yeah,
So-
and that's exactly the...
Yeah.
But an interesting perspective on it is that I actually it was only like just over like an hour and 20 minutes. It wasn't a long documentary.
No.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, it was not even so much because it was about him, but like I actually thought this was one of the better, like best produced documentaries I've seen, maybe because it was him actually legitimately telling his story in the way he wanted us to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a good job of like, he was honest. I mean, there was no big, giant, crazy revelations made about his life, but he was honest. His parents were very much a part of it. All his old, like, we'll get into all that stuff. But I just thought it was a really, actually well put together documentary.
Yeah.
It told what it needed to tell in a good amount of time.
Yeah. The interesting with a guy like Tom Green is how he kind of came up and just the timeline in the era. There was a ton of footage because obviously he was, he had a TV show and it started out as a cable that, but so there was footage from like basically like day one,
Yeah.
all the way through, which made it interesting. It was kind of cool that you could see as he was talking about stuff he did as a teenager and stuff. They had the footage of it all.
Yeah, the progression of how he went from cable access to MTV.
to the top of it. Yeah,
Let's start the timeline there. We'll just start the timeline.
Let's start from the beginning.
Let's try and be organized this time.
Sure.
We'll try.
Start from where it starts. I
Where
like
it
it.
starts. So here are little bullet points, just so, again, those of you who don't know Tom Green kind of get a little picture of him, and those of you who do maybe just don't know.
Yep.
So he was born in 1971 in Pembroke, Ontario, Canada. Small.
Pembroke's out towards Ottawa region, which is
Ottawa
sort of where
region,
he
yeah.
grew up, and watching the documentary, he talks a lot about Ottawa because that's where he's from, basically.
Well, he was raised in Ottawa, where he developed an early interest in comedy and broadcasting, attended Algonquin College studying television broadcasting, which I feel like is a little, kind of close to your guys'
seeing
heart.
as Eric and I both, that's where we met, was not at Algonquin, but at a different college for television broadcasting.
Yeah,
It was
the same
kind of neat to
program.
see because,
Yeah.
obviously he's a bit older than us, but not by much.
Yeah.
So
He's
like...
actually more older than us than I thought. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what year he was. But
I thought he was like more like 75
I thought it was
or
like
6.
mid-70s.
That's what
He was
I
a little
thought
older,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, but so seeing the stuff he was doing and the equipment they had back in the day, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yes, I 100% remember learning on those same ATRs and cameras and stuff.
And all the different tapes he had, right? It's like, oh yeah, I remember like Betacam tapes. and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
DVC Pros and all that stuff. Yeah.
The Tom Green show could have been your guys's.
Yeah, it also made me think, kind of reflect on myself a little bit. I'm like, I was in that same program. I didn't become successful. Oh damn.
No,
Oh,
but
that's fine.
it just shows you. I mean, anybody with he had what he wanted to do, and he went out and chased that dream.
So he had, you guys are going to remember the details more than me because I lose track of these details. But so right from the start, he had sort of like a group of people around him, like his friends. Like so the one guy that kind of went with him through his show era did he go to school with him? I missed
Well, they were all
that.
friends from.
They were all friends.
Yeah.
So, they kind of started these little, obviously Tom Green was the mastermind behind it all. And then his friends kind of had little like characters that were just sort of part of the bit that he took along with him for quite a while.
Well, they were all good friends, and they all did.
Yeah.
Well, they all started it together. Yeah, they kind of met, like he was doing, like he kind of got into. So he was kind of. There's a few things he was big into huge into skateboarding.
Yes.
Which then he got into skateboarding videos. Where
Yes.
those were kind of very raw, shot by like the skaters themselves. So he was kind of inspired by that.
Yeah.
Then he was big into television. He started doing stand-up comedy because in Yuck Yucks, there was a Yuck Yucks in
Ottawa.
that had an amateur night.
But wait, before that stuff though, what was his what did they do before that? They were a rap group.
Well, that was all around the same.
Oh,
I
same
thought that
time,
was
yeah.
before though.
No,
And then they did
it
the
was all the
TV.
same time.
Yeah.
Oh, the way the documentary to me, because they talked about that first, and then they were talking about.
Well, because that was like a weird sort of offshoot of what he was doing, because he was big into like hip hop and stuff, which
It was so ridiculous.
in like the mid '80s in Canada, especially out in like the auto, like hip hop was not
Yeah.
as big as it was still relatively new.
What was
So he
there?
had two kind of creative outlets. There's what
Yeah.
you're kind of saying, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
had like his video stuff with the skateboarding stuff with the buddies that ended up doing his show on cable access MTV.
Yeah.
And then he had his rap band was another like creative offshoot he had with his buddy, and the band was called.
Oh, I forget.
Organized Rhyme.
Thank you,
So
there it is.
Google it, guys. Listen to some
Check
good
the OR. You like it so far? That was their big hit.
some
Yeah.
great Canadian rap content from the 90s.
Well, they were up for.
They won a Juno?
Well, they were up for.
Oh, they didn't
They were
win.
nominated for Juno. They won a Canadian Music Video Artist Award or something like that.
Yeah, I think for Much
Yeah.
Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it
yeah,
was
but
so
Check the OR
terrible.
was like their big song. I love
Sing
that
it,
song. It's
sing
catchy
it.
as hell.
Sing
Just
a
check
line
the
of-
OR. You like it so far. That's the theme. I'm not gonna get into it. I don't know the words.
Oh, I don't know what it's about, but I just thought you knew the song.
Well, no, it's just Check the OR. That's
Oh, that's
this.
okay.
Yeah, that's the name of the song.
that's the chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
But so
don't know.
Chad, check the OR, Organized Rhyme. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Tom Green and a friend of his.
Oh, I
Yeah.
literally never listened to any of that, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I remember that song like well before like hearing about Tom Green was like, that was a big song up here in Canada.
And
back
it's
in the
just
day.
funny because those of you who don't know Tom Green, Google him, but he's this like tall, gangly, like scrawny, dorky looking
Yeah.
white kid.
Yeah, not an intimidating gangster rapper at all.
No, but it was
No.
funny though then because they talk about how they
Yes.
kind of did the Organized Rhyme became a thing, and his mom helped fund, and they got a producer, and they went
New
down to like
York.
New York City and
Yeah.
Brooklyn or whatever.
Or that
Yeah.
story about
And the guy was kind of like, like these kids, wherever they were recording was kind of a pretty rough neighborhood, and like
Canadian
Tom just
kids.
went out on a skateboard and like, oh, this is kind of like a rough neighborhood for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let alone a couple of white kids from
Canada.
Canada
Canada.
who really don't know what's up. And like Tom came back like 20 minutes later with a whole bunch of guys and was like, hey, they're all friends, and they thought it was cool. And
Yeah.
he definitely
Yeah.
has a personality. I feel like that he just is like not intimidating, but like you just feel like I feel like if I met him,
I think people are like drawn to him.
Yeah.
he's got that. He can make jokes and he can
Yeah.
read people, I think, kind of well to kind of know, okay, how
But I also
to
feel
push
like-
buttons or also kind of bring people
But
in
I
and
also
stuff.
feel
Yeah.
like he's not an overtly outgoing person. Like he is in his sort of quote unquote character, right? Like
Yeah.
he has to be, but like day to day he seems very kind of more like, which a lot of people are, right?
Yeah.
I don't care what you say, like if you're playing like the Tom Green show, he was a character, right?
Well, yeah.
He's also like 30 years older now too, right? So he was saying in the documentary, basically, when he looked at video of himself, he's like, I remember that guy. He's like, I'm not the same guy now.
No, and
Yeah.
I think that's normal, right?
Exactly. It's just
Oh
part
yeah,
of
when
aging
you're
and
when you're 17,
maturing.
18, you're fearless and do anything
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
thinking about the consequences or just
Yeah.
going to get that laugh and doing whatever you need to do, right? Like,
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so really quickly, we talked about it quick, but I'll just sort of synopsize it.
okay,
Rise to fame.
Ooh, the Rise to Fame section.
yeah,
He began his career with the Tom Green Show on public access television in the early 1990s. The show gained a cult following and was later picked up by MTV in 1999. Known for his outrageous and often controversial pranks pushing the boundaries of comedy, gained international fame for his unconventional style, including stunts like placing a cow head in his parents' bed. We were talking about this, and I can't remember who said it. I may have said it, and then they ended up saying it later in the documentary, but he was Jackass before Jackass was Jackass.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, he was doing a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
watching that now, it's like, oh, that's where that came from. That's
Yeah.
And they interviewed some people too who talked, like Eric
Yeah.
Andre,
Yeah.
who's another famous comedian, was kind of like, hey, who had a TV show, was like,
yeah.
oh, I completely sort of borrowed
I feel like
that from you.
Yeah, like trashing his set.
Trashing the set and
like
stuff like that.
I feel like Jackass was an extreme level to what Tom Green was doing. Like they did a lot of more like hardcore crazy stuff. Jackass.
Well, they were all stunts where Tom
Yeah.
Green was still like he did a talk show, so he would try
Yeah.
to interview people
Yeah.
and stuff. But there
Yeah.
were skits and stuff in between there, and you can
But-
definitely see how that led to.
One thing
Jackass.
I
Yeah.
also think is really cool is that his parents, like, because his parents were part of the butt of a lot of his pranks back when he
Yeah.
still lived at home with his parents.
Yeah,
And one thing I do have to say is like his parents were in this documentary, and watching clips of things all throughout the documentary of like TV appearances he did and blah blah. His parents were always with him, and I was like, that's really
well,
cool.
they support even when he was doing his rap stuff. They
Yeah.
said his mom helped pay for them to get down to
Yeah.
New York to get a demo made,
Yeah.
and
like
that.
super cool.
Well, no, I mean, you wonder without if his parents had been like, "This is stupid. You're
Yeah.
wasting your time." Don't
Yeah.
like. Would he have kept going? Who
Yeah.
knows, right? But having family that supports you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Super
makes all
important.
the difference in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he started on a public access television station. Every like city has them, or
Yeah, it was
whatever.
like
Back
the
in the
local,
day,
like
yeah.
the local,
Local
Rogers
station.
station in Ottawa. Yeah,
Yeah, and he did his show, and it was super like obviously not like super fancy. It was just
No, it was like them with like stuff they would borrow from like his college or whatever.
or they go grocery shopping to get stuff to like do stuff
they
on
would
things.
just
and
do
things,
whatever.
yeah.
You know, they had zero budget, so they were just
Yeah.
how do we make this funny and entertaining with like
Yeah.
no
Now,
money?
I actually thought the pranks he did on his parents were really funny because, okay, so if you don't know Tom Green, like he has a very like like when he's Tom Green, he has this very like dry delivery of when he talks a lot of times.
Yeah.
So like, one day his dad got up to go to work. Cause I was Googling and I think his dad was like a data analyst, like, just a white collar job, like a regular dad.
Yeah.
And he got up to go to work and Tom Green had gotten his car custom painted and it said, are you allowed to say this word
Yeah.
on a podcast?
Yeah.
What did it say? What was it?
Slutmobile.
Slutmobile. And it had a really pornographic
Image of two women.
on
Yeah.
the car.
Engaged in sexual acts. on the
Yeah.
car, yeah.
And I mean, the dad comes out and he's just like, what the? And then Tom Green
The
in
dad
his,
was pissed about
in
that.
his
yeah.
very like delivery, he's just like, what? Why aren't you going to drive to work? And that's to me
Yeah.
what's funny. Is he's just like, what? What's so funny?
That's
Yeah.
exactly that was the setup, right? It was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to do something outrageous, but play straight to it
Yeah.
and get my parents to have a reaction.
I
That's
love
the comedy,
it.
yeah.
So the dad's just like, well, I can't drive this to work and whatever. And then he goes to the bus stop. So Tom Green drives the car.
Drives
to
the car
bus
up,
stop.
and then you see his dad waiting at the bus with like 10
bunch
other
of-
people waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
And they can clearly see what's on the
Slutmobile.
car.
do,
He's
you,
like,
do you remember the dad's initial reaction?
yeah,
He's like, remember when he saw the car, he's like, go talk to your mother.
Yeah. and they were interviewing
You
the
can tell
mom.
he was pissed. He's like,
Yeah.
I can't wait right now.
They were interviewing the mom in present time for the documentary. She's like, I don't know what he expected me to do. I feel
Yeah.
like the mom was a lot more like go with the flow than the dad. But the dad even said like eventually this was just it was who he was and it was just part of his thing.
And I think they probably, like it was a local cable show, but
Yeah.
like he said, he was at work one day and someone was talking to. I don't think they realized it was
No.
he was Tom
His
Green's
kid.
dad, but was
Yeah.
talking about this show.
yeah.
And it was like it was a colonel in the because he worked in the military. It sounded like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy was like, "Oh, it's hilarious." So I think they realized, hey, like
I think
something. This is
Yeah.
something
There's
here.
potential here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this is not just my son wasting his time. Like there's
and then
Yeah.
people are, engaging with this, and there's something here.
the other prank, just to add to that though, but the fact that they still had the same support even when they didn't realize that's
Yeah.
awesome.
No,
Like,
no,
were
no.
really
They
good.
kind of started to lean into it a bit, and
Yeah.
it was good.
And like the one prank where he woke the dad up and with a whole bunch of like girls,
Girls from like the
Dancing
bar,
girls.
yeah.
Yeah.
Girls from the local
like
bars,
3
like
a.m.
3 in the morning, yeah, because his mom was on vacation. She was visiting family in Barrie, Ontario.
if you want to feel Canadian, watch this
Yeah,
documentary.
especially
God.
watching like the early
Really-
stuff. We're talking about like
yeah.
the Rogers Cable Access
Like
and all this
Barrie.
stuff, and
Wearing like the original Senators logo on his hat and
Yeah.
stuff. And jersey,
it's
yeah.
definitely you get those like early '80s, mid '90s like
Now,
feels. Yeah,
he did ask his mom what was one was one prank that she was ever really mad about or like really hated, and she did say that. I mean, I would be pissed too.
Yeah.
He went into his parents' bed when they were
Yeah.
sleeping and put a dead cow's head on them.
yeah. He
Oh
must
my
have got it
God.
from like a butcher or something.
Yeah.
That is like.
And it's funny because the dad's like, "Get that cow's," and the mom's like, "It's not real." And he's like, "It's real," and you could see she was
You're
just
gonna
like,
get blood on the comforter.
I know. She's just so upset about you. You're gonna stay in the comforter.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
guessing at that point in time, like it just became a thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, like seeing that. But then anyone like I think you mentioned, but like watching like was it Viva La Bam or Bam Majera show, whatever
Yeah.
that was called.
That's what he did.
Or even on Jackass.
Yeah, but
the
he would
Bam Majera
always
skits.
Yeah, he would always go
Yeah.
out and harass his mom and dad.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like
Where'd this come from?
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
was inspired by it. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And now the same thing, right? The whole, the funny part of that joke was his parents' reaction.
Yeah.
Well, the dad was a hothead, wasn't he? His dad, I
Not
remember.
so much.
No.
No,
Wasn't
neither
he?
one of them was that.
It was his uncle,
Crazy reaction.
Uncle Vito.
Okay, well, one of
he
them
was more of a hothead.
I remember there's
Oh,
bigger.
so I didn't know you were talking about Tom Green's
no,
parents or
the Bam.
Bam
I
Majera's
remember
parents.
this
Yeah.
one big fat guy who was always mad.
Yeah, his dad or his his mom would yell a lot too.
His mom would
Yeah.
she'd flip out and be loud and get all
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
Now the Tom Green parents' reaction was more just like a again.
Oh, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
never,
Yeah.
at least the clips
Yeah.
watching, there was never
Yeah.
any sort of crazy, like over the top, like
No,
losing their
no.
mind
Yeah.
type thing. Yeah.
Well, that's the hilarious part because they would actually answer, like, he'd ask them something stupid and they would actually answer it. Like, they'd be annoyed, but they'd actually answer the question instead of being like, get the hell out of here, right?
Well, like when he
Yeah.
woke him up at like 3 in the morning to see if they wanted to watch Bon Jovi
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
live in New Jersey video, that cassette tape that his dad had in the car somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And he's talking to his mom. He's like, come on, Mom, just watch it with, watch 5 minutes with me. She's like, no, I will not watch the Bon Jovi documentary with you right now.
What time is that to be up in 2.5 hours?
Exactly. But a
Yeah.
lot of people would be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
It's 3 in the morning. Get the hell out of my room.
Yeah, exactly. No, they definitely
Yeah.
were lenient with him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So on his cable or his publicly funded, whatever you call that, was public
Cable
access
access,
cable
yeah.
access station, like they were doing a lot of stuff where you go on the street and like ask random strangers questions, get them riled up, and
Yeah.
yada yada yada, and then eventually
CBC picked it up.
CBC picked it. This
They
is
did,
where I
like-
always forget
They
the
did
details.
a pilot.
Yeah, they did a pilot for CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation,
Yeah.
but that didn't really pan out at all. The CBC
No.
just
Can't
decided
imagine
they
they
didn't
would-
want to,
They shot the pilot and sat on it for a year.
and they were just like, yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like
I
it
can
was a
see,
little
like-
controversial for the CBC.
Yeah. They'd be like, hey, we got
The CBC pushed it with some stuff like Kids in the Hall and things like that, but this
Yeah.
was like a whole other
this was
level.
a whole,
Yeah.
yeah. So the CBC was just like, yeah, not for us.
So
Yeah.
so after the 90s doing that, then it got picked up by MTV in 1999, and that was like he was just like,
Well, that was
"What?"
like big time. The coolest
Yeah.
thing, the craziest thing about that, which I was shocked to hear, was that it was all thanks to Mike Bullard,
Yeah.
who anybody Canadian watching knows. Mike Bullard was a comedian up here who had his own talk show for a couple of years.
And
something
I
like
just
that,
found out he
mid-90s.
died.
Yeah, he passed away sometime last year. I think.
2024.
Yeah, I
had
was
no
gonna say it was
idea.
within the last like couple of months. Yeah,
I saw Mike Bullard in a Wendy's restaurant. I didn't say hi. I wish I did now.
but yeah, no,
What a story.
But I was surprised because they shared a manager, and Mike Bullard told the manager that was shared between him and Tom Green was like, "This kid's got something. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta take him in and like help him because he's got whatever he's doing. I can tell you,
It's
he's-
clicking with people.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this kid's got what it takes, and
Yeah.
what he's doing, it's gonna take him places. So like, get behind him and support him and get him out there. And that's how this
Yeah.
manager then had connections to like MTV and
Yeah, took his tapes and showed the
Yeah.
execs at MTV. They brought him in for a meeting. They're like,
So,
yeah,
like,
let's
Greenlit a
do
show,
it. Yeah.
clearly going to MTV, there's a fancier set, there's a real set, there's a set that you don't have to put together, there's all this kind of crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, like that's,
I remember at one point he said like he was living in a hotel in New York. I mean, he was in New York City. It was crazy. It was
when he was like
fancy.
19, I think, and stuff.
Yeah, he
and then he
was
took his
very
buddies,
young.
right? Because we kind of you mentioned it quickly, but like his two closest friends
Yeah.
were also one of them. They were his like sidekicks, co-hosts on the show.
It was
Whatever.
like the Andy Richter of what was
Yeah.
that guy's name? Glenn?
Glenn Humpling.
Is that his actual name? Humpling? That's a terrible last
I
name.
assume so.
so.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that sits in the back and just drinks the
Yeah,
coffee
his other
and
buddy, I
laughs.
forget his name, but who sat in the back and would just laugh all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we should point out, I forgot that these guys came back to talk to him in present day for the documentary.
Well, that was nice
which
to
is
see
cool.
all these guys were back because they're all still like these are his friends from when he was like 10, 11, 12
Yeah.
years old, and they're
Yeah.
still good friends and stuff. So it was cool to see that they're all still.
Like, it sounds like they
talking,
don't
yeah.
necessarily see each other all the
'cause, I mean,
time,
Tom
but
Green obviously lived in
LA, yeah.
and these guys were obviously, I'm assuming, back up here and in Canada. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, there's a bit of a travel to hang out and whatever. But
so that was cool. But and then so in the era of the MTV era, I believe was he got on Letterman. He was super excited about that as a guest.
well, he was like super inspired by it because David Letterman did a lot of, you know, and they were showing some of the clips. Like he did a lot of weird
yeah.
man on the street skits
Yeah.
and bits
Yeah.
and stuff like that too. So Tom Green was clearly inspired by that. So he was, you know, he looked at Letterman as like,
Yeah.
and you can't forget, like Letterman was like huge on TV, like in the States.
yep.
You know, like he was the king of late night.
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, someone's stomach is gurgling.
That was a long gurgle.
Kelly's getting distracted.
I was like, am I hearing that? These mics are bad.
They
Well,
pick up everything, good or bad. It's
It's all there.
That was a stomach gurgle.
Yeah.
I don't know whose, but it was a stomach gurgle. But yeah,
I
he
had
was
I had a chicken bacon wrap from Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
don't do it.
No, do it, Tim Hortons.
It was delicious, but now my stomach's gurgling.
But yeah, he was on David Letterman, and he was super obviously excited, and you know, it was sort of that like level of because like MTV was super popular, and so his show was gaining more like
well, it
popularity.
was like they kind of said like back then, you know, like without pre-internet days, like
Yeah.
MTV up here we had a bunch of music, but that was like sort of your pop culture.
You mean the baby version of MTV?
That's right.
Oh, that's what you're getting
Canadian
to.
version, the better versions.
I thought you were looking over here. I'm like, my stomach's not gurgling
No,
again.
I was
Kelly's just
looking
trying
at
to be
you
funny.
because I was like,
Oh.
I didn't know if you clue it. I was going to try and trigger Steve. Watch one of our previous podcasts. Steve and I are going to do a big debate
right.
about
It's-
much music.
Anyways,
It was a drag out brawl.
that's right. Anyways, what I was trying to say was that it was like the place
Yeah.
for pop culture.
Oh, yeah.
So like getting on MTV like was
Huge.
fucking massive.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know,
It
that
was
was like
huge.
crazy for a kid from Ottawa
Yeah.
on Rogers Public Access
Yeah.
to go into like starring on your own MTV show. Like
Yeah.
that is mind blowing.
Because if
Yeah,
you-
the best that they described MTV back in the day was what the internet is today, right?
That's what they said on the documentary.
Yeah.
Basically
Yeah.
everything that was on the internet, like music videos, comedy, all that stuff.
Yeah.
you could find it
everyone-
on Much Music.
Exactly.
Or MTV. Yeah.
So one of the things that I find really cool about like creative people and like just hearing Tom Green tell this one little story is that they're always trying to find a way to elevate an idea. It's not just an idea and like, let's do it. It's always like, no, but we can do it this, and this.
Yeah.
And an example is he got an email from Tony Hawk, who was like his idol because he was a big skateboarder. He loved Tony Hawk. He was like, oh my God. Like to him, I feel like that was like, I've made it. Like Tony Hawk wants to be on the show.
He was really into skateboarding.
Yeah.
So Tony Hawk was like
He's the guy.
And he said, oh, Tony Hawk, I'm in a hotel a couple blocks down. I live there. Where are you? Where's your hotel? And he's this. And he's like, why don't we just meet at my hotel and we skateboard together to the show?
Yeah.
And Tony Hawk was like, all right. So they recorded them skateboarding through the city of New York. And I mean, just on a level of Tom Green being a fan of Tony Hawk, like how cool was that probably for him?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just like,
there's a reason he suggested it too.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I want to skate with Tony Hawk.
But I love that. It's not just like, because then they made this big grand entrance. It's not a major thing, but like instead of just being like, oh yeah, come on the show, it was like, no, why don't we just do it?
Well, then in Tom Green style, he made them go through like a store on their stomach, like swimming on their skateboards.
Yeah, because Tony Hawk's like, I thought we were going to get arrested in New York City because he was just going and doing all sorts of weird stuff. Like, not just skateboarding, but going into stores and skateboarding and shit.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I thought it was kind of like, and he was very like, even retelling the story, you could tell he was just like, that was one of his very good memories.
Yeah. Well, and he still kind of talks to them. It seemed like they were still kind of friends with Tony Hawk and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, he's still friends with a lot of these people too. It was cool.
Yeah. So then, the MTV show has success, and I think it was, I might be getting the timeline mixed up, guys. Don't yell at me. But near the end of the course of the MTV show is when he had met Drew Barrymore. They were friends. They met on that film. What film was it? Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Charlie's Angels. They became friends. They started dating, yada, yada, yada. And then during that time when he was with her is when he was diagnosed with testicular cancer. But in true Tom Green fashion, he decided to kind of bring awareness to it by making fun of it. Not making fun of it, but like making light of the situation.
Yeah. Rather than trying to dwell on it too much, he tried to make it
so there's
somewhat funny.
One funny clip. I'm guessing it was on his show, but they're all at a restaurant, like his friends and Drew Barrymore, and the waitress is like, "Oh, can I take your order?" And he's like, and he's just
anything you celebrate, anything special.
Anything you celebrate.
Yeah.
Like, I have testicular cancer. I don't know if I'm gonna live. Like one of my balls got chopped off.
He's like, this might be my last supper.
And then the poor wait, because he always goes a little bit far.
Yeah.
Right?
He's doing what he's doing,
but very like dry. And just like, and then all of a sudden you can tell she's like, do you want a wine list?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
It was a pretty good follow up.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, and like even like his friends and Drew Barrymore just at the table, kind of like,
because they knew what he was trying to like make her feel awkward, just to be funny, and
so he got that. He had his bout with that. I mean, luckily, I think that treatment was...
but it really knocked his wind out of him.
Oh,
like, he was talking like how long it took his recovery, because, he had the testicle removed, and then they go back in because his lymph nodes they were worried about, so they had to remove those, and that really like...
And he did say that he obviously never like publicly showed, like there was a red carpet he had to do with Drew Barrymore.
Like 5 days after he had his testicle removed.
And he's like, I literally was like, I don't, like, I'm going to just collapse.
Yeah, like I was in so much pain, but he wanted to be there to support her and stuff. And
so, sorry, I just took a deep breath. That took my breath away.
That's where he kind of, after that, that's when he quit the show then too, right?
Well, I was going to say that. So one of the biggest misconceptions that he talks about, and he makes it very clear in this documentary, is everybody under the sun, and I would just assume the same thing, assumes that MTV canceled his show in 1999.
No.
But that's not true.
In the 2000s. Canceled. It wasn't canceled though. Is this 99 there?
MTV in 1999.
My mistake, everyone.
He hard fact checked me.
Because I was positive.
He's getting confused. He forgets he came back again.
He did. This is the initial.
Okay.
I think that's what he's thinking about.
I got mixed up.
I think I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
So 1999. Everybody thinks the talk show is canceled by MTV, but he's like, no, I had to quit the show because I was going through testicular cancer.
Yeah.
I was going through all this stuff. I just could not do it.
Yeah.
So there we go. He quit. He wasn't fired by MTV.
No, he was pretty crystal clear that everyone thought he was canceled, but he's like, I walked away from it at that time. Yeah,
which sucks. It's probably really hard for him to do that.
Oh yeah, well he said before he had this cancer diagnosis, he's like, I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
I had this huge show. I was doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I was meeting, celebrities and
being in movies.
They were Drew Barrymore. He's like, I was at the top of the mountain, and then
right
when you think you got it all, then life pulls the rug out from underneath. He was like, How about some cancer?
Yeah.
Well, so then after the show, he left the show in 1999 is when he did like Road Trip in 2000.
Great movie.
That's an awesome movie.
He was very
That was actually the first time I remember seeing Tom Green was Road Trip.
like I knew who he was in Road Trip, but like that was sort of but he was very Tom Green in that movie. Now that you look back at the old
he always
clips,
sort of has
had
that same, even in
character.
like his, I'm sure, but in Freddy Got Fingered, just that's his sort of persona. Yeah.
So, and then, like you said, he was on top of the world. He was doing movies. He's like, he had agents. He had a beautiful house in the hills of Hollywood. Like he was married to Drew Barrymore. Unfortunately, like, he did talk about it really briefly that, they weren't married crazy long. It was like a year. And he's like, there was just so much going on that it just didn't.
With all his house stuff and their works and,
like it didn't.
Yeah.
You know.
It just couldn't foster a marriage that way.
Yeah.
So he briefly talked about that.
Yeah.
And then sort of like, when you talk about these celebrities, they always have these like, beginnings, and then they have this like peak on top of the world. And then there's always the like
the downfall. Yeah.
Whatever, whether it's big or small, there's downfall.
No one can stay on top forever.
No. That's
and
exactly,
then, so then he decided, because he's on top of the game, he has lots of people liking him and wanting him to do stuff. So he's like wrote his own script, right? He wrote that movie.
Yeah.
It was his idea.
Freddy Got Fingered? That's what we're talking about?
Yeah. So it was going to be made, and he went to the producers and was like, I want to direct this movie. And they're like, hell to the no. You're not directing this movie.
Like,
hell to the no.
Sorry, you do TV, but that's fine, but no.
Yeah, no movie. So then I guess whoever he was talking to was like, well, fine, you got to go talk to this person.
Basically, we'll get you a meeting with the heads of the studio. You can plead your case for why you should direct this, and
they're all like, yeah, he's not going to direct this. No. He comes back and he's like, yeah, I can direct
it. They're like, whatever. Yeah, they were like, yeah, sure.
Now, I mean, the movie was so it says wrote and directed.
Yeah.
It was a horrible flop when
it was a bomb. Critically, like in the theater, it was a bomb.
It was panned pretty much across the board. I think they said I think it was the New York Times. One film critic appreciated it.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like everybody ragged on it. Yeah.
In true Tom, like he said that did crush his soul.
Oh yeah, he was like that really.
Yeah.
But
I think his problem was they didn't just attack the movie, they attacked him.
Yeah. And so I thought it was funny though, because he was nominated for like 7 Raspberry Awards or 5 Raspberry Awards. And in true Tom Green fashion, I mean, I give it to him. I mean, I wouldn't, but I give it to him. He showed up when the awards are given out because nobody actually shows up.
Yeah.
But he showed up in a tuxedo with an acceptance speech to accept his Raspberry Award. I love
so cool. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was, good for you, buddy.
Exactly.
I forgot, that's awesome. Yeah. I thought that was...
Own it, bring it. Hey, it's an award. He's like, hey, I want an award.
Yeah, like,
exactly.
Hey,
I want a major
award. You want to shit on my thing? Then... Yeah. And I think that... I've seen that movie, but I haven't seen it in, I don't know, it's like 12, I don't know, whenever the hell it came out. Like, I haven't seen
2001, so it's like over 20 years.
Okay, so I was going to say probably like at least 15 years or something like that. Yeah. I'd be curious to watch it again to see.
I mean, I feel like if you don't appreciate the Tom Green show, you're not going to like this movie. Because I feel like it's very...
I remember watching this, it's very much a Tom Green movie.
Slapstick, like,
and it's
out there.
Yeah, and that was kind of one of his gripes was that it wasn't sort of a traditional formulaic comedy.
Yeah,
and he thought that's why a lot of people ragged on it.
Which I agree, probably.
Well, no, and that's people are expecting A, B, and C, and he does X, Y, Z, and it's like,
what is this?
Yeah.
That's why that one critic said no, he is brilliant because he didn't follow like it's
yeah, but a lot of people couldn't get past it. But I'd be curious to watch it again because I do remember it being funny and like stupid and funny, but I don't remember it being like unwatchable by any means from what I remember, but I haven't. It's been years.
I remember definitely those parts I laughed at in the movie.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I watched it.
No, I got everything ready to come. Like I remember he gets a little Chrysler Baron, and his brother doesn't. And I just remember there's like a whole bit there, and it's just the way he kept saying, "Did you get? I got a LeBaron." Just,
No, there's one. I can't remember the exact timeline of it. I feel like it was like after the MTV show ended. And like kind of in that little, I know when he had the cancer and stuff, I think, but it was actually on camera. So I don't know why they were recording. Maybe it was still during his MTV show. I don't know. But he got a call to host
Yeah, when Letterman was off. Yeah.
Which he was like, because there's a camera there and him and his friends are there, and he gets off the phone and he's like, they want me to host Letterman. And his friend's like, what?
That was crazy that they happened to, because I think they were out shooting a bit for his show. Yeah. And they got a phone call.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you could just see Tom Green just literally like.
Well, he said, he's like, this is embarrassing. He's like, I'm tearing up here.
Yeah.
But I'm going to host the Late Show.
Yeah.
David Letterman.
For a night. Yeah.
And it was just very, and again, I have a soft spot because he's a Canadian boy, and who doesn't love, people from their country. But it just looked so like, just a very humble, like he was looked super humble in that moment, like, holy shit, I'm actually going to be doing
like,
this.
oh my God. Because he obviously, he hosted a talk show, so he was a Letterman fan, so it's like, but now to get the chance to do it for one night, like, it was crazy.
Do you remember who his guests were on that show?
Oh God,
they showed a clip of it, but I don't remember.
I forget.
And then he was on. So then he had done a couple talk shows in between the time he did. Was it Conan where he showed up dressed like the chair?
That was pretty
guest,
funny. In one of his appearances, his suit matched the upholstery of the.
That was
and
amazing.
Again, and the whole complete. Oh, he's like, oh wow, that's weird that this happened. Like, I just love. I love the dry humor, the very delivery.
It was just good. It was just funny that when he walked in, he's sitting there, and Conan's looking at him, starting to, and
the pause,
and he's just not saying anything, and then it's just like. Yeah. It's like clearly
I think
he's dressed exactly like the furniture, and then it's like, I
think he's awkward.
I think he's a comedic genius. I think comedians or, funny people who can have those calculated pauses, those are so imperative to something being funny. And he's super good at it.
Well, something like that. I mean, you take an example
he could have come out and been like, look, I match.
Oh my God, look.
How weird, eh?
Look, the chair me. Look at the chair me. But instead, oh my God, everyone, do you understand what's happening here? He just sits there and just waits, and Conan's laughing.
He waits for the reaction.
Yeah, I love it. With a straight face, too.
Yeah, and just kind of, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, I can't believe, what are the odds of this? Or something to that effect,
But I think, I love that kind of, delivery. It's just so, because you're just laughing that pause. It's and to have the perfect pause.
Well, and that's what makes it funnier, because, again, the other option is to be, over the top, everybody look at me, look how zany I am. Yeah. My shirt matches the, my carpet matches with, and, it's just,
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, that was funny to see.
That was a funny clip. So he did the movies. He did the Freddy Got Fingered. It flopped. It devastated him. He's like, back then it wasn't like now it is. He even said, it's not like social media. Now he's like, but he was still getting critics and people making fun of him, and it sucked. I mean, it would suck for anybody. Well, you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it.
You're not making a movie to think it's going to be garbage, and
especially
shit
he
all
wrote
over
it. He direct that's right from your soul, right?
And he's also having he had a pretty meteoric rise to fame.
He did.
So to have that success in television, he did Road Trip, which is a Todd Phillips movie, but still that did it really well.
Yeah,
you do your own thing and just,
but I feel
complete opposite.
I feel like that happens a lot, though.
Yeah,
it's hard. I mean,
it's hard too because
you can only go every TV show, every comedian, every actor, at some point
you teeter down.
The drop's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And he himself said when Freddy Got Fingered came out, he was overly saturated
and he was everywhere.
In the mainstream market. He was everywhere.
Yeah,
so a lot of times when that happens, when you're overly saturated, people kind of turn against you.
Well, the expectations are very, very high.
Well, that expectations are high. Then you also have people who
are actively waiting for you to fail.
Exactly.
Exactly. So you deliver this movie that people think it's just turd sandwich, and they're gonna
that's what
how dare you?
The public turns on you. They're like, we've had too much of you. We're done.
Yeah.
Now, but one of the things, I'm jumping ahead, but because this is in the Drew Barrymore era, 2001, they got married or divorced. Again, they're only married for a year.
Yeah, it was pretty short. Yeah.
So in the documentary, in the present time, he's talking about how he's like, oh, I just got invited. I'm going on the Drew Barrymore show, her talk show.
Yeah.
And he's like, we haven't spoken or seen each other since we got divorced 19 years ago. And so his friend's like, whoa, isn't that going to be weird? And he's like, well, basically, I feel like there was no hard feeling, messy breakup, but they just hadn't talked.
Didn't seem right?
So then they show the clip of going on the show, and you could tell they're both nervous as hell when he comes out.
A lot of nerves.
Well, because she's probably thinking, knowing what he's like in his
or just
is he going to come out here with a dead cow or something,
or some sort of weird
but also,
bit or whatever?
I mean, it's just weird. weird. It was your husband, whether it was for a brief time or not.
Yeah.
They shared moments together, right?
Yeah,
So he comes out, and then like even he says, he's like, I was super nervous. He's
Well,
like,
you could see it start. It was kind of like this awkward, hey, it's great to see you. Yeah.
and but then it was like fine. I mean, it was. I don't know. I thought it was a really cool interaction.
Yeah. I remember actually when that happened. I remember reading about it online somewhere, or maybe seeing clips on YouTube or something. But I do remember when he showed up on her show. I was like, oh, I forgot that he did that. Yeah.
But it was kind of nice. Like, I mean, you know, they were,
nice that they could see, like, they could.
You could see that they had a connection at some point in their life, right?
Yeah.
But so then that kind of era, and then I kind of forget now what happened after the Freddy Got Fingered. Is that when he started his other show?
Well, that's when he started to dip into like he started
was it the internet stuff?
What do you call it? His Webovision show?
Webovision,
I
forgot about that.
He transitioned to online content creation with Tom Green's House Tonight, one of the first successful internet talk shows.
Yeah, he was like a pioneer, and that's kind of the crazy thing, like watching this stuff, like
he was a pioneer multiple times.
Yeah, like the stuff he was doing in Ottawa was like, you know, a precursor to like a lot of stuff that like the skits that people now would do on YouTube and like Jackass and all this stuff. So it was like he was kind of doing that first.
But then this is like podcasting.
No, it was like streaming video, sort of podcasting / talk show, but it was all on the internet, which back then no one was really doing that. And he kind of talks about it, that the internet was getting, the bandwidth was enough that you could actually do like streaming video and actually it would be watchable. So he built a studio in his house. He built like server racks and like did all of it, including like the backhaul of the video to the internet in his garage. Like,
I feel
crazy.
like this must have been when I got the phone call because I don't remember that part. I had a phone call midway through.
Yeah, so that's, it shows, you know, this is at his house in LA, but literally he had like server racks where, you know, it would be taking those cameras. He had like 9 cameras, I think he said, whatever it was. But and he was producing his own TV show, streaming live to the internet. Out of his house.
You talking about the cameras and stuff just makes me think way at the beginning of the documentary he talks about how he has all tapes of every single thing he's done.
Well, they emptied out his storage locker.
Thousands of tapes.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
But that's so cool to go back and look.
That's the kind of neat thing with Tom Green and just the timing of his rise is that video cameras were accessible back then. They were still super expensive, but you know, you had handy cams and like stuff like that. So
there's ways to do
basically everything is documented from like when he's like 14, 15.
Yeah.
There's video of all of it. So it's kind of neat to see how they intersperse that footage with him retelling like his coming up and how he became to where he was.
Lots of clips and stuff, like a lot of footage, which is kind of cool. But so then he's doing that, and then he kind of, I mean, we're jumping ahead because there was like a big part where he doesn't, like, it's just, I mean, he's old now, so I'm okay, you know what I mean? But there's like, his career was like over 30 years.
Yeah, he's older now.
So there's like a chunk of time that I think he was just living his life in LA, like not
he was
really
doing all that
public.
He was doing all that TV stuff, internet stuff, And
then a couple of years ago, he was like, you know what? I need to go back to Canada.
I think he missed, his family. His folks are up here. And I mean, like anybody, right? I mean, not to, but like all of us, right? Our parents are getting older and stuff like that. So to be that far away from them, like, you know, how many thousands of miles, like.
And he bought a big acreage farm, like hobby farm,
in
just
Ottawa.
outside of Ottawa. And I'm not going to lie.
It looked like a pretty sweet setup he had there.
I think Tom Green's living the dream.
Yeah, he had some horses there,
donkeys.
some donkeys.
It was a 100-year-old log cabin that he bought.
Yeah, and it looks really nice. Absolutely peaceful and like out of the way, but like, oh my God, he has donkeys and horses and
he had paddling his canoe there on the lake, and he had a
with
pond
his dog
there and stuff. He's got his dog, and it sounds
God.
like his family's relatively close by and stuff.
I think, well, he said they were like down the road, I believe.
Yeah,
and I mean, that is the life that I want to live.
It
looked super peaceful.
From going from the craziness of living in LA and stuff, I'm sure like that must have been like a massive reset for him.
The way he was talking, I think he was like low key, like, is this the right decision? Is this the right decision? But he said in the documentary, like in present time, I always feel like I have to say that in present time, where he's like, nah, he's like, I don't know why I doubted this.
He clearly had like set up in his house, like it was like a podcasting setup and stuff, right? So
nowadays you can do that stuff and not be in LA, right?
Well, that's, I think that was his whole point too, exactly. Because even when he was doing that TV show, like I thought it was kind of funny to see if like him or hate him, whatever. But Joe Rogan was a guest on that podcast and was like, you could see Joe Rogan's like, shit,
the lights are going off in his head.
What you're doing here, like this is something. And he said, he made a comment like, if you can figure out how to make money off of this,
this is the dream.
This is the dream, man. And then even Joe Rogan said that. There was clips, I think, from his podcast where he was on, or where Tom Green was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And Joe Rogan's like, hey, man, this is all because of you.
One interesting interview that I just clicked in my brain. I forgot about that. Tom Green talked about was when he was on the Howard Stern show. He said that he was super nervous to be on Howard Stern because you never knew what he was going to say.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
right when his movie sucked ass and
Right
everybody
after,
was talking about it.
Yeah.
So he's like, they were showing clips. He's like, I'm sitting there waiting to be grilled by Robin and Howard Stern, just to be like,
Yeah.
and he's like, and I'm so uncomfortable. He's like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
He was trying to show how upset he really was.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to cry.
Well, that was always why a lot of people didn't want to go to Howard Stern
Yeah.
because he never knew what he was going to do.
But
Right?
it was
Yeah.
also probably really good for your career back then to go
Well,
on
yeah,
Howard Stern.
was they
Huge.
used to there's a reason why they call him the king of all
Yeah.
media, right?
Yeah,
That-
exactly. He had a big audience back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like, I just thought that was to mention. I just remembered it, but he was very like, yeah, that was kind of not great.
Yeah, that was crazy to watch this whole documentary. Like, I honestly kind of, like, because Tom Green's been around a long time and stuff, but I forgot how big he was back
Yeah.
in like the 90s and the 2000s. Like,
Yeah.
just how big he was.
I feel like he, in the grand scheme of like the 30 years since he's been doing stuff, his success was very like a blip in the radar, right? Like the peak of his success. Like it didn't last 20 years, the peak of his success. Hold on.
No. Yeah, no.
So, but I mean, the fact that like, I feel like he kind of almost just like went in, did it, took it as far as it took him. And then it's almost like he knew when it was kind of like going down, just to kind of like
Yeah, he didn't
gracefully
try
peter
and,
out.
Yeah.
And like still clearly he's monetarily successful. I mean, whether
Yeah.
he set himself up good with investments or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not living in a shack.
Well, no,
living
he's still
this-
doing stuff. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you read that article there. Like, he
Right.
put out 3 new, on top of the documentary, he's got some stand-up stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
he's still
but I just
actively,
mean, but he's not like this in the big. You know how they always try to let some people try and stay in the public eye and be relevant when it's probably time to just.
No,
kinda,
he's not like,
It's like he's, and I don't know if this is true. This is my interpretation of it. It's almost like he kind of like just gracefully was like, you know what, I'm just gonna move on.
Well, he
and
said
do
this
things.
document is kind of a cathartic for him, right? He's kind
Yeah.
of closing the chapter on that whole piece of his life.
yeah.
And now he's starting the next chapter of his life
Yeah.
in Ottawa on his farm.
Yeah,
And kind of
yeah.
getting back to his roots doing stand up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going back to where he started, and
Yeah.
No, it was really well done, and it's
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see where he goes from here, what he does. It's he's still, I mean, because he's still a relatively young guy, so
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good documentary, I thought. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of big takeaways from Tom Green. Like, I kind of went into this documentary thinking of Tom Green as just kind of like a really dumb and gross
Yeah.
like, Hubert kind of guy.
yeah.
And he had a lot of like people praising him on this documentary, saying like, he understands TV really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really smart guy. He like really understands storytelling, and he's ahead of the game in technology like all the time.
Yeah.
He definitely was
Right?
ahead of the curve a lot. Earlier, he was almost like the early adopter, the person that buys
Yeah.
the brand new electric car that
Yeah.
it may not work great, but you work with the bugs and you figure it out. And then the next person that gets in
Yeah.
there is like, oh, it takes advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just have to say, like, again, just like from the documentary, watching it itself, it's like, you just feel like he's a very humble and appreciation person. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't take anything that happened to him for granted.
No, it sounds like he appreciates kind of everything that happened to him in the past and everything that,
Yeah.
did happen for a reason.
It was
Yeah.
good because he didn't seem like, he talked.
He wasn't bitter.
No.
Exactly. He didn't seem like he was bitter about anything that happened. He
even
kind of.
even the cancer he didn't seem bitter about.
No, and all this stuff, he just kind of rolled with the punch. He just like he just seemed like a very down to earth guy.
And I
yeah.
think his parents seem really cool too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think probably having the Ren probably helped him a lot too, stay
Oh,
in that
yeah.
world, and having his buddies with him and stuff that he's still friends with. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he definitely seemed like just a down to earth,
Yeah.
solid dude.
I definitely have, because again, knowing what I know of Tom Green, it was only like the stupid Tom Green show or like the road trip character, like or
Yeah.
like road trips, but it's like really like, okay, I get it, you want to eat the rat, like whatever that
Yeah.
road trip whole thing was, right? Like to me, that type of comedy wasn't really my jam per se. It
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
kind of like whatever. But then rewatching all this stuff with him telling about it and like the Conan O'Brien thing, like I'm like, wow, I really appreciate your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it or not, I mean, he took, again, a kid from
Yeah.
Ottawa, which is not, it's a big city, not Canada, but pretty small
Oh,
start
yeah.
to
Yeah.
or taking it from like a Rogers local cable to where
Yeah.
he did. Like, it's a pretty crazy, incredible
Yeah.
story.
It's a very good, like I said, the documentary is just over an hour, which to me is not very long.
Yeah.
But it was like everything that needed to be told was told. Like I didn't leave it being like,
No.
No, it was
Unfinished?
a really good full circle story.
It was, and
Yeah.
then I think now they showed him present day but they never said who it was. But I think he's engaged now. That was
I'm pretty
obviously
sure I
his
saw that on
fiancée.
Instagram or somebody's
And
engaged.
she just
yeah.
looked like a little wholesome woman. Sorry, not girl,
Yeah.
woman. But like, I mean, it just looks like he's living a very content life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he seemed like he's super happy, and yeah, he came out through this crazy. There's a lot of horror stories about
Yeah.
people going through this ringer, and like, I mean, you didn't hear much talk about, alcohol,
Drugs.
any
Yeah,
sort of
no.
those
Yeah.
kind of vices. He seems like
No.
he kind of came through this Hollywood machine
Yeah.
relatively unscathed,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
so
is nice to see because that doesn't happen a whole lot sometimes.
I'm proud that although I read he's actually an American citizen now. Why do they do that?
Everyone does it. It's probably sure it's.
Taxes.
I know. Why
Yeah,
do you do
taxes.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's a homegrown.
That's right.
Canadian
Welcome back
at
to
heart.
the home soil, Tom.
And if I could come over and pet your donkeys and horses, I would love to do that. Just
Absolutely.
saying.
Yeah.
If you ever hear this, Tom Green, we would love to come visit and say, I want to come visit your donkeys and shake your hand 'cause I think you're a pretty awesome guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
check it out, guys. Amazon Prime.
So we all agree, stream it, I think?
Yes.
I would say stream
Or
it.
skip it. We're saying stream it?
Honestly, even if you don't know who he is and you want a little bit of Canadiana, like a real feel good coming from not nothing, but like to like stardom to kind
Yeah.
of like a very good full circle. Just watch it.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's
interesting.
great.
Yeah, I would absolutely say stream it. It's interesting. He's got a really interesting story. It's,
Yes.
Yeah.
cool. Lots of good footage. It's stream it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think this one's unanimous. The panel says stream it.
And it's not
There you
just
go.
because he's Canadian. I mean, maybe that helps, but no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No,
No,
it's actually a really good documentary.
yeah.
I would love to meet him in person one day to see, I don't know, just to talk to him. I don't know why. I just feel very compelled to, talk to him.
Yeah. Well, hey, Tom, if you see it, send us a message.
Yeah, Tom, DM
You guys
us.
can send us a message too at Gen X Unfiltered on Instagram.
That's right.
Yeah.
Comment below. Let us know if you watched this documentary or the Tom Green show. I don't know. Maybe there's some fans out there that we don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it was a huge show. Let us know what you guys think of Tom Green.
All right, guys, that's it for today's podcast. We thank you so very much for watching
And listening.
And we will see you and hear you next time. That was awkward. Bye, guys.
Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Too much copy.
Thank you, Timmy's.